Mosse, it's lovely to be here with you in Mid-Derry, and it's sort of amusing for me because years ago, I confess, I used to think you Continental boys hadn't a chance competing with us, but of course I've seen it now and it's very different. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in sheepdogs, or were you from a farming background in Sweden?
Yeah, I'm from a dairy farm from the beginning. My father was a dairy farmer, so I was I was as all other kids. You had to help at home, and so I was into that. But when I was 25, he quit. So I started thinking, maybe I should go and do some go back to the dairy. So I was a dairy farmer for 18 years.
Yes.
And I used dogs all the time for taking in the milk cows and get more and more interested in that. I saw that if I train them a little bit better, then I can save me work,
yes,
save me money. I can do more with. I can, instead of take 10 heifers in to get one, I can go out there, single off one, take it home. So I get more and more interested in that way.
Yes.
And then I get the bug to start trialing. And then after 18 years, I thought the trialing was more interesting, and so I switched over to sheep.
Yes,
and,
yes.
So that's on the way. And
yeah, so in fairness, you got a lot of stock sense and dog sense, even with the dairy cows and farming with stock.
Yeah.
And where did you go for dogs? Where did you go to find, or was it border collies or was
it was border collies. And my first dog I was into hunting dogs before that, before I started dairy farming, but I actually get as a present from my sisters. They just bought it on an advert in the paper, an unregistered border collie.
Yes.
And I had it with me, and it wasn't a very good one, but she actually took in the dairy cows for milking every day, back and forward, and then I'm quite interested in breeding and because you have to be that with the dairy cows and look at bulls, and so I started looking for dogs and how to breed and all that stuff. So mostly I bred my own.
It's always very amusing to me about how we come by our first dogs, and your story is very like Eric Holmgard. I was talking to him and he was a little bit the same, how he found it. But the other thing I started to notice with fellas too, we all sort of tend to be kind of dog men as well. And you had hunting dogs as well before that even. Yeah.
So I was hunting. I have had dogs nearly all my life, and if I talk to people, I often say that I don't like dogs.
Yes.
But I like to do something with dogs. I liked hunting dogs because then I can do something together with a dog. I like that.
Yes.
The same with the sheepdogs. I really like the companionship there, and the way to work together and figure out things together, and I love that part of it.
Yeah. I think that bit hooks me too. So it's like being able to manipulate that instinct or desire, or like to get that single heifer in and save yourself all the work. And I must say that attracts me as well.
Yeah.
And so you got into sheep in Sweden, and was there sheepdog trials that time? Or?
Yeah, it was a lot of sheepdog trials. We was trialing every week, and not in the winters, of course, because we have more winter there. But no, you do the national, and you do the Scandinavian Open, and you do the Scandinavian Championship, you do continental championships, and all that stuff.
And then you must have had a lot of obstacles to deal with, though, with the weather. And like in the winter, could you train, or did you just put the dog away from the training part?
No, you look after, so you had the opportunity to train them.
Yes.
I mean, and it was. I had a farm in Sweden that had 600 ewes. And I mean, even in the winter, you need to work with the dogs.
Yes.
So it was like, and I was on the east coast there, so it wasn't so bad with snow or anything. So mostly I could train dogs the whole year round.
And how did it make the transition to coming over here, or did you, was that back in a time when you could put a passport on a dog and travel with your dog, or?
No, you needed to have a passport,
Yeah.
But first time I was over in here in Scotland was '94, I think. I went over to visit Johnny Wilson, and then I actually was here probably twice a year.
Yes.
Every year.
Yes.
And sometimes I bought dogs from him, and so in the beginning I had most dogs from his breeding. So in the beginning I didn't come over here trialing. I think 2003 was actually the first year I was over trialing here.
Must have been great to have access to fellas like Johnny Wilson and
Yeah,
all.
it was good. I watched him a lot, and I learned a lot there.
Yes. And so how did you decide to actually move over here? Or why did you decide to move over?
Now, farming in Sweden is not good anymore. The government don't protect farmers or help farmers. So in the end there, you couldn't do a living on 600 ewes.
Yes.
So I had to put, the last 2-3 years, I think I put in a lot of money from the dog side into to keep
to help the business go.
Help the business going. So we said in the end, why are we doing this? So I have always think I have been so keen to come over here.
Yes.
So I have had it up here for many years, and then we said we either do it now or we never do it.
Yes.
And my option was to stay in Sweden because we had decided to stop farming. Stay in Sweden, living on doing clinics.
Yes.
And I wasn't so keen on that. So we said, we go over here, take it as a year, and then we see what's happening. So it wasn't quite easy decision actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And did you know before you came that, like, why didn't you come to us in Ireland? We could have done with a good handler over there.
Yeah. Nah, I had more connection with Scotland actually. I know more people here, and I had been up here more visiting, and so I was looking at if I had found a farm somewhere, Wales or somewhere, I probably have went for that. But
yes.
But I liked Scotland.
And how did you find people here? Like, it must have been a little bit odd now having a Swede come in. Or did people accept you? Or how did that work out? Did they help you?
Yeah, people have been great. I mean, from the first day really.
Yeah.
People have been really helpful, and we have our feeling is that we are fully accepted here. And
lovely.
Yeah.
And so now, what kind of size of a farm have you got, or have you got a lot of stock?
I have this farm mid-dairy. It's 60 hectares. We have 300 ewes here, and then we manage our dormy farm on the other side of the hill here. That's 450 there. So that's what we have.
Oh, lovely ground for training dogs.
Yeah, it's good. We have this small hill here, and then we have a bigger hill on our dormy, and so it's good.
I was talking to Michael Gallagher in Ireland a few weeks ago, and he said to me that when he's breaking out his dogs, and obviously, you know, he wants a good trial dog, but he said he likes to do a lambing with them. Mm. Do you find, you must have all that sort of work during the year?
Yeah. Like this year I sold my main dogs during the winter, so I had 2 young ones, Sally and Sprout, this year, and I was a little afraid. I was left with them for the lambing, and I thought I didn't know how they could cope, and that was actually quite interesting to see.
Yes, the deep end. Like.
Yeah. Because when you are there lambing, you are in bad temper, and you are like, oh shit, you need to get this going. And
yes.
But they actually stepped up a lot, and that actually made them a bit tougher. And I think a lambing is really good for them to take the next step. And
yes.
Yeah.
And do you find that it leaves you more confident, or that you know your dogs better? Well, you spend a lot of time with them in lambing, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean. Both of them are a little more flanking types. I wasn't thinking that, are they coming up and hold sheep for me and catch it for me, but they loved it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was like, and I didn't think about it. So just after the lambing, we was to a trial, and I hadn't trained them or anything. And Sprout, I saw him there. He was looking up there, and he went just straight up and should grab, so I just had to whistle him off. And
yes.
No. So I had to put back the outrungs again.
But do you think that we can still, you know, have a good work dog and also have him as a good trial dog? Do you think, some people say to me they have to be one or the other, you can't have both?
I don't believe in that. I mean, for me, a good work dog is a good trial dog.
Yes.
They need to be able to do both of it, I think.
So I see you there with you have a mixture of sheep there when we were looking at dogs earlier. Have you got a couple of flocks, or what do you have here?
But because our main living is to train dogs, and we need different type of of sheep to train them on. So we have like one group of Hebrideans on that field, one mixed group of easy care on that field, and so we can the dogs get used to different type of sheep, and like here we haven't been here so long, so we have Cheviots and put blue face on them for our main flock. So we want to produce Cheviot mules because I like them.
Yes.
So that's should be the big flock, but we need different type of sheep to train dogs.
That's interesting then. So, and when you have see the different dogs and the different sheep, you'd see more. You'd have a really good idea of what you're selling somebody because, well, you know how to handle sheep and the different sheep.
Yeah, and for me it's so important to fit the right dog to the right handler. I mean, that for me that's the key to be. Don't people come back and complain. I mean, I rather don't sell a dog than.
Yes.
It must fit the handler.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
Yes.
I mean, I can have a brilliant dog that I really, really like and
yes.
think it's a good dog, and sell it to someone who can't handle it.
Yes.
Then it's a shit dog.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's
funny. That's the whole. I always fall into that. I see a dog I like, and I want to sell it all the time. But it's not about what I like.
No.
Yeah. No. And where do your dogs go? Where do you sell them to?
Because we are from Sweden, of course, we have a lot of connection there. Sweden, Norway. I mean, we have sold dogs, continent and America, but Norway, Sweden, probably 50%, I think.
Yes.
And then over here, of course.
And when you came over here first, and we talked about Johnny Wilson, was there other people that you liked the picture of the way they hunted or their style, or other people that influenced you?
Yeah, when I start, when I really get keen, I was still dairy farming. I was that was in the beginning of the 90s, I think, and we looked. We was a couple of boys up in North Sweden, and we said, it haven't started in Sweden, so we have to look over here. So we actually looked over here in UK.
Yes.
And went over, all of us, and get inspired here. And we took every time we find a video or something from international, so we was sitting watching that, and then I bought Grignon's book there, A Way of Life, and that I had that as a Bible when I started, and I was reading that back and forward, and if I've been out training, doing driving, I went back in looking, how is he thinking about that, and that actually pushed me and helped me a lot, and then we have stepped up from there.
It's amusing how many people that book has influenced. For sure, me and you wouldn't be sitting here talking only for I bought it.
No, exactly.
And I love the commonalities. But it's like you said, back then you'd be hungry for stuff, and coming over here must have been very motivating. Then when you go back to Sweden and talk with other handlers. And you think is it like you spend a bit of time with Johnny Wilson? Is it valuable to talk, and can you learn that way, or how do you absorb the information you need?
Yeah, but you watch handler, and you watch them, you talk to them, but most of all, I think you have to watch them and try to think, he's doing it that way. Why is he doing that way? I mean, the important thing is to start thinking, so you get your own idea how to do things. I mean. People often go to clinics there, and then they go to clinics there, and then for me that splits people up.
Yes.
You have to find someone you think have a little the same idea as you. I like that style.
Yes.
And then follow that.
Yes.
And
for you then, who were those people that you were looking at saying, I want to study this run, it's coming up in a few minutes, I want to watch this, see how he does it. Was there fellas that kind of, I don't know, that stick out to you that I want to see what he's at?
Yeah, but when I was there, before I moved, of course Johnny was a big thing I watched, and then you tried to all watch the Welsh handlers, and I mean you didn't know them all, and Magnusson, I really liked his style, and when you talk to him, for example, when I was over in Wales the first time, it was so interesting and it was like you try to, he's thinking about that, and so that was really interesting to meet him, I think.
funny, you mentioned pen Macno earlier, and you were saying that sometimes you'd go to a trial maybe, and nobody could pen, and the next thing pen Macno would do something a little bit different, and he'd pen. And like I often see people and they say, "Oh, the sheep are terrible today, and we can't shed." And do you think that we have to be careful that we don't start making excuses for ourselves or for our dogs? Or
yeah, I think that. I mean, it's always a way to beat them. And when if I compare competing here to Sweden, I mean, Sweden, the sheep are tame and they are walking, and it's more like obedience.
Yes.
I mean, if you just the dog do what you tell it,
yes,
you're quite successful. But here, when you come to trial, the first thing you have to think about, how should I beat this sheep? I mean, you can't be thinking about winning all the time. You need to beat the sheep first. Otherwise, and it's always I mean, someone win all the trials. I mean,
yes, yes.
Yeah, and he do it the right way that day.
Yes.
So you have to figure out, how should I beat them today? What's this type of sheep, and how should I handle my dog? And that's the key to everything here.
Quinn said to me before, actually, he said, when I go out, I think about how am I going to beat the course. Is that what you're talking about a little bit? Don't worry so much about the competition. No. Just use them to see how can you beat the course.
Yeah, you have to think that way, because that's the first step.
Yes.
Then, of course, you are there to win.
Yes.
That's a plan. But, I mean, you can't win if you can't beat the sheep.
Yes.
I mean, figure out how to handle them. And so I think that's, you have to start there.
And so you've come over here and you've performed really well at top competitions and everything. Like, we'll have the Scottish National coming up again soon, and well, all the nationals for that matter. Do you think that, like, do you think there's something different about a national, or do you need a different strategy going into a national, say, as opposed to, you know, a good Sunday trial or Saturday trial as they are here? Is it a different strategy, or is it just the same on a bigger course?
Yeah, in general, it's the same, but a lot of people suffer from nerves, of course, because I feel national it's big, and I like that type of pressure on me.
Yes.
So I actually really enjoy the bigger trials because of that. And otherwise, I mean, you have more. For example, in Scotland, we don't have shedding rings often. We just shed outside. The judge say, "Shed in front of me here," and so that's different for a lot of people. I'm quite used to it, because when in Sweden and when you was at Continental and everything, you always have shedding rings, and most of the trials you have shed, pen, and single. So I mean, but I think for a lot of people here, it's another step, because we have pen, shed, pen, single, and shedding ring. So I think a lot of people suffer from the pressure from it.
And how do you manage the pressure when you're going out to the stake and like you've got the heart jumping, or is it that you have a little conversation with yourself and you just manage that? What are you thinking going out to the stake? How do you deal with it? Because you need to go out there and perform, and you've got to pull it out of the hat today.
Yeah.
What? And you've only one chance, because we all get under that pressure. How do you do it?
I don't know, but first of all, I like that type of pressure.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. So, but of course you need a bit of nerve in it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then in my head, when you go, I mean, you want to come in the team.
Yes.
So you have to go out there first, make all the elements. I mean, you need to hit the gate. You don't need to do it like tight turns. I really try to, don't do it too fancy.
Yes.
Because then you can, you turn them in front of a gate or something. Don't looking for a smart single, for example, of the head, risking a grip or something. Just do it like basic.
Yes.
So you don't spoil anything.
Serge said to me once, he said, go out there and he said, do it like you do it at home, do it like a job.
Yeah.
And so is it kind of, when you go up the levels, I know we need the finesse too, but when you go up the levels and those bigger stuff, is it getting a little bit back more to like a good solid working dog and good workmanship?
I think you come closer actually to a working dog especially when you come into the Supreme. I mean, then you need something who really can do.
Well, and the Supreme final, well, we all love Supreme finals, but I love it for the double fetch, and I love it for the 20 sheep in the shedding ring. Yeah. And I've never been there. I look forward to, hopefully someday it'll happen for me. But is there an awful lot of preparation for that, or like when you start thinking about a Supreme, Like, is there a couple of years? Is it 2 years away when, you know, or with the preparation, or is it, what is it like to prepare?
I think when you train a dog, you always have that in your head from they're like 12-month-old or something. When you start training them, you have it in your head when you train them that they must be able to do that, and you test them for every step they take in the level, and then I mean you use the heel, you use the ground, you have to create situations like that.
Yes.
And I think it's I think you have it up here all the time.
Yes.
So you take, if you have a dog, it could be a good dog, but you see faults in it that can't make. For example, it's not letting the sheep go when it's go back, for example.
Yes.
Then you have to stop there and think, okay, can I get this working, or do I have to go to the next dog instead? And
I always wondered how you guys picked your best dogs, and so like that's the benchmark in your head. You've always got, well, I've got the Supreme back here in my head, and I'm thinking, oh, he's fallen a little bit short there. I don't think this one will make it. I don't think I'll carry on. That's how you sort of divide them out for yourself, is it?
Yeah, but I have. First of all, you need to like the dog. I mean, and you need to find a dog who can take the pressure from your way to work.
Yes.
And I have my way to run a dog, and if it don't respond the way I want, then it's just. But then you have to take it to the next level, test it there, and see if it follow up there. I mean, you can have a tremendous young dog, it's the one, and then after 2-3 steps, you see, oh, it can't take that type of pressure when you turn him, or when you're shedding, or so. I mean, you can't really say from the beginning if they're.
Well, that's really interesting. That's the first time I kind of started to understand it. So, when you get up to a sort of a level and you sort of test them at that level, I like the way you say that.
Yeah.
But even in the lambing, you're testing when I'm in a bad mood and things are going a bit wrong, and at least he can stay with me. He's there for me.
Yeah, I mean exactly. That's because when you come to the Supreme, especially in the shedding, there the dogs are tired, you are tensed, and it's more like a work situation. If they're not there, and give you all, then you can't do it.
And so you're used to competing at those high levels with those guys in Supremes and World Trials and things like that. Have you thought much about this competition we have coming up now in Way with Dogs? And like, we're going to meet some serious handlers there, but you've competed against most of those boys. They're friends of yours. What'll that be like?
No, I really looking forward to that.
Yes.
And so I was quite happy when Kerry sent a message and asked if I was interested, and that should be really, really fun.
It's almost a little bit like getting a ticket straight into the Supreme.
Yeah,
straight in
like
there.
that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then it must be like I was in Glyn Jones's back in April, and in his house, in Kerry's house, and I remember it. You know, it meant a lot to be back there. Yeah. It'll be nice for you too.
Yeah, I have been there before a couple of times, and it was lovely. And especially after seeing that, I read in that book, I told his book, and you saw the video, and you saw it was on that field, and so I really looking forward to this.
Yes,
it's nice, and as you say, it's so good handlers invited, and then me. Yeah. So that should be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
And you have a nice selection of dogs. Have you decided who you're going to run there?
I probably run Sally.
Yes.
At the moment I have Sally and Sprout, and they're quite young, both of them, 2.5 years old, and I think Sally is better down there. Yeah, I think you need something who is quite sharp and playable.
Yes.
And she is a little more playable than, and I saw the last seasons there, and it's not too big fields. So I think that you need someone who can be gentle with the sheep, but still fast to react on and respond on commands. And I think Sally will be my choice.
And like you say, pliable, you can put her where you need to, and I've seen you do that here.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks Mosse for having us up here.
Thank you very much.
I've really enjoyed looking at your dogs, and I look forward to seeing her in September.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mosse.
Thank you very much.